Hey Artleets, welcome to lesson 3 of module 2. This lesson will be focusing on torso simplification. Now that we've gone through all the muscles of the torso, it's time to see how we can manipulate the main masses of the body to better represent the appearance of a torso. When we look at the two main masses that make up the torso, we can essentially draw them as two boxes. Although this is fine for spatial orientation, it will lack a organic human feeling. So to solve that problem, we should start implementing what we've learned about the bones and the muscles and see how we can come up with a better manipulated mannequin. As a quick disclaimer, we want to let you know that our interpretation does not have to be yours. We are simply giving you the tools to come up with your own solution, but feel free to use ours as well. Now, when we look at the torso from the front, we can identify a couple of muscles that will certainly dictate the form and silhouette of the anterior torso. This would be the trapezius, the pecs, the lats, and the obliques. Through studying the muscles individually, you should have better cultivated a sense of their form. When we combine them with the X shape of the rib cage, we can come up with a form that looks fairly anatomical. As for the abdomen region, instead of just using a cylinder, we can add the manipulated form of the obliques on top to come up with something a little more interesting. Lastly, the pelvis can be simplified into a bucket or can be further distilled into a solidified form that resembles, let's say, underwear. Together, these forms will form a better representation of the anterior torso than just two boxes. For the posterior or backside of the torso, we have a similar scenario. The pelvis and abdomen stay the same, yet the rib cage gets combined with the lats and the trapezius to form a shape that looks more like what you see here. When we look at a more feminine version of the simplified torso, we can see that the lats and traps are much less pronounced and the obliques will point outward more. The most important thing to keep in mind is that these forms should be considered flexible and bendable, as is our body. After all, you will often come across poses that show twists or bends in the torso, thus showing both anterior and posterior portions of the torso. A good understanding of the forms you establish will be necessary to draw these poses with simplified forms and ultimately from imagination, as this is the goal of this course. So when drawing the torso mannequin from imagination, it will serve you well to understand how these forms were built and welded together to form what we regard as a human torso. It will take quite some practice to become familiar and confident with these forms, but we are confident that these lessons and assignments will almost fast track that process for you. This means that your assignment for this lesson will be to redraw 10 torsos of the references you've used for the torso lessons. 5 poses that show the anterior side of the torso, and 5 of them that show more of the back or posterior side. Lastly, what you'll do is you'll stylize one of these torsos in the style of one of the artists that we share in the resources. As you can see here, we have an example by Max Grecke, and we have restylized our torso to fit his sort of stylization. Again, that's it, Artleets. We hope you have fun with these assignments, and we'll see you in the next one.